winning, you know, people ask me, we go on these winning streaks, and the one thing I can tell you is this is such a roller coaster. It's so full of ups and downs, peaks and valleys that, you know, you go on a win streak, you win 10 fights in a row, you're the best coach. People are, oh, you're gonna be the gym of the year, coach of the year. You lose one, you suck, you're terrible. Yeah, everybody hates you, you know, and so you just try to kind of, for me, just keep an even keel of, we're doing great, cool, awesome, we're doing great. We're doing bad, it'll pass, you know, and just try to roll with the punches, so to speak. John Wood, head coach here at Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas, Nevada. Vegas has always been the fight capital, you know, through boxing and kickboxing, things like that. We used to have a lot of K1 events and things here. But boxing has always ruled the roost here in Vegas, and it just kind of had a natural progression towards MMA. You know, the Fertittas, everybody ended up out here. Fertittas, Dana White came to Vegas, you know, to get in the boxing game, and ended up getting into the MMA game, and that's just where the UFC was pretty much not founded, but taken over by the right people that made the sport what it is today. 2004, I'd already been training several years. I started training MMA actually when I was 17, and I'm one of those rare breeds that kind of, I saw the first UFC pay-per-view at my friend's house, fell in love with it, you know, started training when I was 17 and didn't really know what I was going to do with it. And it was kind of all over the place, you know. When I started fighting and actually got to the point where I can compete professionally, there wasn't even any amateur fights. When my first fight was a pro fight against a guy who had already had 20-some fights. There was no amateurs. Like, amateur was unheard of. So it was just go straight pro, fight in bars, fight wherever you could. You know, when I think half the fights I have aren't even on my record. You know, they didn't even keep track back then. So it was pretty crazy. I had actually started training in Arizona, my MMA career out there for a little bit. I had left Vegas, was getting in trouble as a kid growing up, so I had to bail for a while. Went to Arizona, started training out there at Arizona Combat Sports and a couple other places around then. Ended up getting in trouble out there and decided to come back home to Vegas because actually that's when the MMA out here had started to kind of pop off. The UFC was taken over by the Fertittas and Dana, and there was a couple gyms out here. And I ended up coming back and training at Las Vegas Combat Club with Frank, actually. You know, I started training with Frank, I think. Frank had just gotten his purple belt, and he had just had his first fight in the UFC, you know, so it's been a pretty crazy ride to actually be 20-some years later back here. I didn't even, you know, I never got to the level that Frank or some of these other guys, not even close. You know, I had scratched the surface and got the Ultimate Fighter and some things like that. And it was hard for me to retire. It was hard for me to, the adrenaline and chasing the high, so to speak, is one thing, but you identify yourself as a fighter. Like, that's all a lot of these guys know, is that you're a fighter. And then what happens when you're not a fighter? You know, like, let's be honest, fighting is one of the most narcissistic, egotistical, like, rawest form of athletics, you know, if you want to call it that, combat sports. And you know, you are, when you're a fighter, that's that you eat, sleep, and breathe it, and it's tough to let that go. It's tough to tell somebody when somebody asks you, hey, so what do you do? Oh, I'm a fighter. And then when you don't have that, you know, it's weird. Oh, I'm a plumber, or I'm a cop, or I'm a this. It is tough. It's tough to let go. It's tough to let go of the lifestyle. It's tough to let go of the, you know, we get to do a lot of cool shit as fighters and coaches and stuff. You get to travel the world. People are in awe of you. When you tell somebody you're a fighter, it's like, oh, you do MMA? Oh my God, you do UFC? You know, it's crazy, you know, and people are just in awe of it. So it's that whole thing. It's just tough to let go all the way through. There's a lot of different components there. Man, you know, this whole sport, on the fight side and the coaching side, it's a roller coaster. It's a roller coaster of emotions. There's no worse feeling than losing a fight, you know, on either side, coaching or fighting. There's a lot of pressure as a fighter when you go to a fight. There's such a buildup. You know, it's like a powder keg. You know, there's such a buildup before a fight that sometimes win or lose, you're happy that the pressure is off either way. You know, that you've gone through, done it. You don't have that pressure of fighting, because fighting is stressful. And so sometimes you're like relieved of it, and then it sets in as far as, oh man, if I lost. It's the lowest of the lows and the highest of the highs. As a coach, for me, it's more, I take losing very difficult, I should say. I don't like losing because I feel twice as bad that my fighter lost, so I feel bad for them. I maybe failed as a coach if they lost, or I look at those things. So for me, a loss is, especially, I care about my fighters. I love every one of them on my team. You know, we're a team, we're a family here at Syndicate. So, you know, I look at them as a team and family. So when they hurt, I hurt. I have very close relationships with a lot of these guys. So I take a double loss as, like, you know, as my fighter loss, so I feel bad, and as a coach. So for me, it sucks losing as a coach. Winning, you know, people ask me, we go on these winning streaks, and the one thing I can tell you is this is such a roller coaster. It's so full of ups and downs, peaks and valleys, that, you know, you go on a win streak, you win 10 fights in a row, you're the best coach. People, oh, you're gonna be the gym of the year, coach of the year. You lose one, you suck, you're terrible. Yeah, everybody hates you, you know, and so you just try to kind of, for me, just keep an even keel of, we're doing great, cool, awesome, we're doing great. We're doing bad, it'll pass, you know, and just try to roll with the punches, so to speak. My quest to have this super gym, you know, and have all this, like, hundreds and hundreds of fighters was never my goal. I have tried my hardest to build from within, bring people up. I really, really like taking projects on, whether it's newbies or young guys that have potential, or if, you know, over the last few years, I've taken a lot of careers with fighters that were kind of on the end of their career and or struggling and looking to get in, and done some really good things. And I get more pleasure and you know, pride and joy out of that kind of thing, is like taking something that, you know, maybe wasn't in a good spot and putting it, you know, in a better spot. You know, my last gym, we had a big, you know, 17,000 square foot warehouse and facility, and I just didn't, you know, it never felt like a close-knit, tight thing. We always had a good team atmosphere. It's the one thing here that I promote. Vegas is there's a lot of what I call gym jumpers and coaches, and people just float around and run around and try to snatch whatever. I want something different. I want a team, I want a family atmosphere. And so yes, I do have that here, and that's like moving to the new location. We're at about, I think 10 and 11,000 square feet, so we're still a really good sized gym. But it's closer, it's more intimate. And since then, the vibe, since we moved back into this spot, it's a phenomenal location, but it just feels more of a team, even more of an atmosphere. People are interacting more. It's just a really good vibe, and that's what I've always strived for, is to have a good vibe. When people walk in this door, they're going, oh shit, I want to bring my kids or my family, or I want to do jiu-jitsu, and even the fighters. Oh man, I want to train here. This is a great vibe. This is good energy. And not only with a great vibe, but you have a solid coaching staff. You have a solid team. You have solid fighters here. And it's just all around, just a team and a family.